Millions of believers are being deceived by prosperity gospel churches that promise wealth, health, and success, but actually teach a false gospel that leads people away from true salvation. These churches use biblical language and claim to follow Jesus, but their core teachings completely contradict what Christ actually taught about money, faith, and the Christian life. If you don't know how to recognize these dangerous teachings, you could be spiritually manipulated and financially exploited while thinking you're growing in faith. In this video, we're exposing the 5 biggest lies that every prosperity gospel church teaches, lies that have deceived millions and made their leaders incredibly wealthy while destroying the faith of countless believers. Make sure you stay until the end, because the last lie we reveal is the most psychologically damaging of all. Before we start, let me know in the comments what country you're watching from. I love connecting with viewers from around the world. Now, let's begin with the first and most fundamental lie that forms the foundation of all prosperity gospel deception. The first and most fundamental lie that prosperity gospel churches preach is that God's primary desire for every believer is material wealth and financial success. This dangerous teaching emerged in the 1940s through preachers like Oral Roberts and Kenneth Hagin, who twisted biblical promises of blessing into guarantees of earthly riches. At first glance, this sounds encouraging, but the red flag becomes obvious when you realize this doctrine completely ignores Jesus' own life of poverty and his clear warnings about pursuing wealth. What's even more concerning is how prosperity churches completely redefine Jesus Christ himself, transforming him from the suffering servant into a wealthy businessman who promises financial returns on spiritual investments. They claim Jesus was rich because he wore expensive robes, but conveniently ignore that he was born in a stable, had no place to lay his head, and died with nothing. This turns God into a cosmic vending machine where faith becomes currency you insert to receive material blessings. This lie particularly preys on people's genuine financial struggles, with prosperity preachers targeting the unemployed and those facing medical bills, promising wealth if they just have enough faith and give enough money. When the promised wealth never comes, these false teachers blame the victim's lack of faith rather than their own false doctrine, leaving believers financially devastated and spiritually disillusioned while pastors live in mansions and fly private jets. But if you think this prosperity lie is shocking, wait until you hear how these churches manipulate the very concept of faith itself into a tool for financial control. The second devastating lie prosperity churches teach is that your level of faith directly determines how much money God will bless you with. This false doctrine creates a spiritual hierarchy where the wealthy are considered more faithful, while the poor are labeled as having weak or insufficient faith. These churches teach that faith operates like a spiritual ATM. The more faith you deposit, the more money God withdraws from heaven's bank account into yours. This completely distorts the biblical concept of faith, turning it from trust in God's character into a tool for manipulating divine outcomes. What makes this teaching particularly dangerous is how it places the entire burden of financial success on the individual believer's faith performance. Prosperity preachers teach that if you're struggling financially, it's because you haven't prayed hard enough, confessed positively enough, or believed strongly enough. This creates immense psychological pressure and spiritual guilt, as people constantly question whether their faith is big enough to unlock God's financial blessings. They ignore the countless biblical examples of faithful believers who lived in poverty and suffered hardship. This lie becomes especially cruel when applied to genuine tragedy and hardship. When families lose their homes, face medical bankruptcies, or struggle with unemployment, prosperity churches blame their lack of faith rather than offering genuine comfort and practical help. This victim-blaming mentality destroys communities and isolates those who need support most, all while protecting the false doctrine that wealth equals spiritual maturity. But this manipulation of faith is just the beginning. What we're about to reveal next shows how these churches take their deception even further by attacking the character of God Himself. The third lie that prosperity churches aggressively promote is that sickness and disease are always the result of weak faith, sin, or lack of spiritual authority. This false teaching claims that God never wants His children to be sick and that physical health is guaranteed for all believers who have sufficient faith to claim their healing. They twist scriptures about divine healing to suggest that remaining sick is actually a choice, a failure to exercise proper faith or spiritual warfare against demonic attacks on your body. What's even more disturbing is how this doctrine creates spiritual abuse toward those suffering from chronic illness, disabilities, or terminal diseases. Prosperity churches often conduct healing services where sick people are pressured to demonstrate their faith through emotional displays, financial giving, or public confession of healing, even when symptoms persist. When healing doesn't occur, the blame is placed squarely on the sick person's shoulders. They didn't have enough faith, harbored secret sin, or failed to claim their healing properly. This teaching becomes particularly cruel when applied to children with disabilities, elderly members with natural aging ailments, or families dealing with cancer and other serious diseases. Instead of offering genuine comfort and support during difficult times, prosperity churches often isolate and shame these members, suggesting their continued illness proves spiritual deficiency. This creates additional emotional trauma for people already dealing with physical suffering. And just when you think their manipulation couldn't get worse, wait until you see how they turn the biblical principle of giving into a sophisticated money-making scheme. The fourth lie that drives the entire prosperity gospel machine is the seed offering doctrine, the teaching that you must give money to receive God's blessings, with your financial gift functioning as a spiritual seed that will multiply and return to you exponentially. Prosperity preachers constantly pressure their congregations to give seed offerings with the promise that God will multiply their gift back to them tenfold, hundredfold, or even thousandfold. This turns biblical generosity into a spiritual gambling system, where people are encouraged to give money they can't afford with the expectation of supernatural financial returns. What makes this particularly predatory is how prosperity churches specifically target people during their most desperate moments: job loss, medical emergencies, family crises, and convince them that giving their last dollars is actually the key to solving their problems. They use high-pressure tactics, claiming that the bigger the financial sacrifice, the bigger the blessing, while encouraging people to give beyond their means as a step of faith. This creates a cycle where vulnerable people become increasingly desperate and continue giving, hoping the next offering will finally trigger their breakthrough. The most disturbing aspect of this seed offering lie is how it enriches the very pastors who are exploiting their congregation's desperation. While members give their grocery money and mortgage payments as seeds, these prosperity preachers accumulate massive wealth, luxury cars, private jets, and multi-million-dollar homes. They claim their lavish lifestyle proves the effectiveness of seed giving, when in reality, it demonstrates how they've monetized people's faith and desperation for personal gain. But there's one final lie that might be the most psychologically damaging of all, and it involves convincing people they can control reality itself through their words. The fifth and perhaps most psychologically damaging lie taught by prosperity churches is that your words have the power to create reality, that speaking positive confessions about wealth, health, and success will literally manifest these things in the physical world. This word of faith doctrine teaches that believers can speak things into existence just like God did during creation. and that negative words will curse your life, while positive declarations will bless it. Prosperity preachers claim that if you consistently confess, "I am wealthy, I am healthy, and I am blessed," these statements will eventually become your reality. What makes this teaching particularly dangerous is how it places enormous psychological pressure on people to monitor and control every word they speak, creating an exhausting mental prison where honest expression of struggle, doubt, or pain is forbidden. Members are taught that even mentioning financial problems, health issues, or personal struggles will actually create more problems through negative confession. This prevents genuine community, authentic relationships, and honest prayer, as people become afraid that expressing their real needs will curse their lives. This lie becomes especially devastating when people's positive confessions don't produce the promised results. When wealth, healing, or success fails to manifest despite years of positive speaking, prosperity teachers blame the victim for not confessing consistently enough, harboring secret doubt, or allowing negative thoughts to sabotage their declarations. This creates a cycle of self-blame and spiritual condemnation as people conclude their failures at the very basics of Christian faith when their words don't create the reality they've been promised. The ultimate tragedy of all these prosperity lies is that they replace the true gospel of Jesus Christ with a false religion focused entirely on earthly gain, leaving millions of sincere believers spiritually deceived and eternally lost, while enriching the false teachers who exploit their desperation. These 5 lies from prosperity gospel churches may promise blessing and success, but they actually distort the true gospel and lead people into spiritual deception and financial bondage. The most tragic part is how these false teachings completely change what it means to follow Jesus Christ, turning faith into a business transaction and the gospel into a get-rich-quick scheme that enriches pastors while exploiting vulnerable people. In our next video, we'll reveal the 7 most dangerous practices that modern churches are secretly adopting today, so make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss it. Now I want to hear from you. Which of these prosperity lies shocked you the most? Comment below and let me know what country you're watching from. Also, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with your friends and family who need to hear this truth. Stay strong in the real gospel, and may God protect you from deception.